Hello, this is Alejandro Martinez, and this is my Weebly portfolio. I just made it kind of simple and just have this welcome to my portfolio. And I also added this little quote here by Terry Pratchett, which says, "Wisdom comes from experience. Experience comes from a lack of wisdom," which, some may think that's kind of I don't know, just rubs them the wrong way with the quote. But I personally can relate to that, saying that, going in education, the only way to get experience or to gain wisdom is by, going in the trenches and, trying and failing at many things. So that's why I also put that quote because I really think that's important to remember and to know. Uh, Over here is my About page. I added this little drawing one of my students made me because it just made me laugh, and I think it's fantastic. So that's why I added it there. I wrote in here basically that I started my career in education unknowingly about 10 years ago when I started working at an after school program. Um, After that, the funding was going to go away, so I had to go find a new job, and that job was in a behavioral program. After doing that for about I think 3 years, I decided to go into the education field because I just felt really in my place with these kids. These behavioral kids are not what a lot of people think. They just need a lot of help with certain skills that we take for granted, and I think I can help with that. Um, it is a very taxing job at times, but I find it very rewarding and refreshing. Over here is my Word doc. For this lesson plan, I chose to do like a communication skills lesson. A lot of times, what happens with our kids is that they don't know how to express, a want or a feeling or a need, so they act out in a different way. So I think it's important to teach them, some skills or some, positive ways to get what they want or to show that they need help, versus in a very, malicious way, even though, they may not know that it's a bad way. That's one thing that we need to teach. Over here is my Excel sheet. I just did the assignments. Um, I had some fun with the names. Over here is my PowerPoint, and once again, it is about communication, about how we need to have healthy ways to express our needs. Um, I think a lot of times we take for granted the verbal cues, and how we word things. Our kids sometimes just don't get that through. They overthink that, or they don't take that into consideration. So I think that's one thing I think uh, I could teach them is to be mindful on how we say things, and be mindful how we react to things, or act in certain ways, because a lot of times they just don't know what they're doing is not the best thing to do. And then here is my other uh, page. I decided to do AHA Slides. I think AHA Slides is actually a really great tool. I think that any teacher could use this, and any pretty much any educator could use it. Could use this in a presentation. And since it seems like we are gravitating more towards PowerPoints and maybe Google Slides, this could be a very simple and universal way to zest up our presentations and our lessons, because we all know keeping kids on task is very vital, and we want to keep it kind of exciting for them too. So I think AHA Slides is a great tool, whether we're using the word cloud, the poll quiz, the polling, um, the spinners, and even just putting them into groups maybe for a future game. That is a great thing that any educator could use. And over here will be my screencast-o-matic, but that is what I'm recording right now. And then here is my web quest. Uh, This was a little tricky. This is a kind of tricky one for me because in a behavioral program, I feel like we are kind of the black sheep of SPED, in education in general, because I feel like our position is more like uh, almost like a life coach, or more of a coaching kind of way versus like being at the typical teacher or educator. But one thing that I've learned in being in this program is that a lot of our kids, have faced such hardship that the idea of going to college for 4 years and doing academics even more does not appeal to them. Even me, after high school, even though I did try to go to school, I was just not having it. But one thing I think that is really great for them, or for them to consider, or any kid in that fact, is trade schools. Trade schools, I think, are a great option. Here, once the page opens, I'll tell you more. Here, I just kind of said, that kind of spieling. High school is great. I think, a lot of times that's the only, college, sorry. College is, the the only path that a lot talk about, or a lot of kids think is the only pathway. But I want to let them know that trade schools can be a great pathway for them. And I'm just trying to wait for this to load. So I just wanted to get them for this is like the idea of what things they may need to know before going to trade school, what that process looks like. Um, and then for the most part, actually the highlight of this is why trade school is good and bad, because I think, they need to know, all the information they can about trade schools. Um, I have here listed like a video of pros and cons, the types of jobs and why it could be good. Um, I even put Boise Schools DTech Center because they can get their CTE degree or certification while in high school, which I think is a great thing because whether you want to go to college, or you're trying to figure out what you want to do, or you don't want to go to college, having that certification is great. So that way they have a job ready out of high school. Um, I then after that I just told them to do a PowerPoint. Oh, no, sorry. And I made a smaller rubric, a very simple one, once it tries to load. I apologize for that, by the way. Well, it looks like it's not loading, but I just made a very simple rubric, just saying, if you have, nothing on the slides or, very minimal efforts, I would fail, it would be a low grade. If you have some, decent, oh, here it is. If it's mostly organized or just, there's good info, decent amount of info, you get 3. And if everything looks great, you get a 4. So that is my portfolio. And I just want to thank you for everything you have done for me, answering all my questions. I really appreciate that. And there it is.